Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Heumann Perspective. Today, I would like to introduce you to Kendrick Kemp, who lives currently in Syracuse and is the center player in the Black Liberation Theology movement. And he is a prominent speaker. Last year, did 30 presentations around the country. He is currently going to be enrolled in getting his PhD at Syracuse University, and in the beginning of January was ordained as a minister. So welcome to the show, Kendrick.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I had the opportunity and privilege really a couple of months ago for Kendrick and I to begin to meet each other. And I think he's got a very important story about himself and the work that he's currently doing. And so what we're going to do in this discussion today is really learn more about Kendrick and his work and how you may be interested in engaging in work that he's doing in your own personal life. So Kendrick, can you share a little bit of information about your background? You're 58 years old now. You're a baby in my life. I'm now 73. And I had my disability, when I was younger, but you didn't acquire your disability until you were 20. So maybe you could give us a little information about your background.
Yes. Thank you. I'm 58, like you said. I was born in Georgia, Jefferson County, and my family wanted a better way of living, so they moved up north, in Lyons, New York. I got two brothers and two sisters. I had three sisters, but one of my sisters passed away about 5 years ago.
Sorry.
And I'm a PK. I'm a preacher's kid, and my grandfathers was preachers too, and my brothers are preachers. So I lived in the faith community all my life. That's what I knew. Yes.
So as you were growing up, what was your experience learning about disabled people as a non-disabled person?
Well, when I was growing up, people with had disabilities, they were cast aside, or they had their own community, and we should pick at them, or say bad things to them, and once I had my strokes, things changed, because I became the people that I was ridiculing and making fun of. Now I am one of those people.
When did you start thinking about it in those terms?
Well, my grandfather was blind in one eye, and one of my aunts had autism, so it was on my radar at a young age, but nobody really talked about disability. We saw people was different, but we didn't have the go ahead to talk about it. But then I had a stroke at a young age, in my early 20s. I had to really deal with it, because I wasn't the same person I was before that. Before that, I won the states in basketball, football, track, every sport I played, I was good at. Now I had, a stroke. I was paralyzed, so for people, they saw me different too. I saw myself different, and I didn't like what I saw.
What did you
Um,
see?
a person that needed other people to help me, or my face was this disformed. I didn't fit the prototype I had, in the previous life, you know, and now I was like, people was coming up to me and they said, well, we got to heal you, or fixing me, you know. I was like ostracized, and my I couldn't think by myself. Somebody had to think for me, and I didn't like that.
And I know your mother has played an important part in your life. So how was your mother and your family supportive of you as you really were creating a new vision for who you would be?
You know, my church family, my media family was was there for me, especially my mom. She never gave up on me, because I had a bout with alcohol and drugs, and after my strokes, I went down that path um, deeper, but my mom never gave up on me. I talked to her, we talked to each other today about, that path I took. And my mom, she was there when nobody else was there. When everybody else gave up on me, when I gave up on myself, my mom always was there, guiding me and said, it'll be all right. I didn't know what all right meant, but I believed in my mom. She wouldn't lie to me.
And I'm sure she didn't know what all right meant either, but she was there to be supportive of you.
Yes,
So
that's true.
I know you've told me that you've been involved with the 12-step program for quite a while, and I'm wondering how helpful was that for you after you had your stroke and had your bout with alcoholism and drugs and recognized that you wanted to change your life? Um, how did that impact you?
I that's a good question because it was hard because I didn't see people who had physical disabilities, in those programs. So I was like the lone person per se, but I needed to find a community, who dealt with alcohol and drugs, and I found that in AA and NA, but it wasn't perfect. They had their drawbacks,
Mhm.
but I wanted to stop using any means necessary. So I went there when I didn't want to go. My friends, they they said, they suggested me to go anywhere, and I found a new language and a new community to take a hold on of.
When did you went back and got involved in higher education? How did that happen? What was the first degree you got? And why did you decide to major in that field?
Well, it was in the midst of, getting clean. I was clean about 7, 10 years, and I didn't want to go back out out there drinking, drugging, and living that life, and I knew I can think. I was really good in thinking. And I have friends, really, really helped me um, to um, um, put my thoughts on paper, and I got a GED because I didn't graduate high school,
Right.
and after I had a GED, I went on and got a associate, so my self-esteem was really um, getting stronger, you know. And then I got a bachelor's of social work from Syracuse, New York University, and then I went down to Binghamton University, got a master's in social work and psychotherapy, and I worked as a social worker for years, and then I went and got a master's of divinity, looking at Black liberation theology of disabilities, because I really, really wanted to um, create a theology that Black Black people and people of color can really take a hold on, So I wanted to create a body of work looking at, theology as a starting point.
And very much centered in this was disabled Black people.
Yes.
And
And Black liberation theology of disabilities, it didn't start off with me because people of color been living with disabilities before I came on board,
yeah,
uh, um, you know, and I really got to say that too, because um, I didn't just start this movement, you know, um, it was people before me was doing this work, but I didn't see a lot of people of Black people doing this work in a theological or spiritual lens. I really wanted to bring that across.
so you wanted to put
That
the disability lens in the
yes,
work that was going on in Black theology.
yes,
Yes.
yeah,
And
and
go ahead, sorry.
Dr. James Hal Cone was as one of my advisors, and I used to meet with him every week, and
Maybe
I
you could
asked him,
tell our audience who he was.
um, Dr. James Hal Cone is the father of Black theology. He really is a father of theology. That's why I went to Union Seminary in New York to study under him. And I remember asking him in his office, I said, well, I don't see Black people living with disabilities in your work. And he says, that's probably true. I'll give you the language and the tools to create that work, and you do that work. And that's what I've been doing. And Dr. Cornell West, he was one of my advisors too. And they really pushed me. And it was good. They pushed me, but they told me that this is some important work
I assume
because
that you were pushing them also.
yes, and they told me that too. They told me that over and over because the Black church, um, we got some work to do
Well,
around disability.
you're not alone. As I mentioned to you earlier, as a Jewish person, it's the same work that's going on, really getting various religious communities to understand some of our thinking as disabled people in the respective communities and helping people learn about what barriers need to be removed in order to enable us to feel truly as an equal part of the communities. If you could talk with us a little bit about some of the work that you've been doing over the years to advance this issue.
Yeah, it's one. Um, I do presentations and lectures, and I preach around Black liberation theology of disabilities, and it's very very good, especially when I preach, because I'm looking at the narratives of the old narratives. They were talking about people living with disabilities and flip them or creating a new narrative, around, sin, if a person had a disability, somebody must have sinned in the family. How can I use that? I can't use that. So I changed that narrative to liberate people who are living with disabilities, and sometimes in song too. Some, you know. So I'm not just. It ain't just me doing this work too. That's what I like about it. There's a lot of people are really pushing back on these messages that was really informing, a lot of people about disabilities, and and I'm glad we're doing it. It's a long road. It's a long road too. It's a slow process.
Well, it's taken us a long time to get where we are, so it's going to take not as long, hopefully, to be able to really break those stereotypes and to do what you're discussing. What would you say are, one or two breakthroughs that you feel like you've had? Not necessarily across the board, but when you talk about Dr. West and Dr. Cohn, what would you say maybe a takeaway for them? I mean, blessing you to go ahead and teach this, but did you see changes in the way they viewed disabled people?
Yes, I know Dr. Uh, Cornell West. He really, really um, took me under his wing, and he really looked at Black people with disabilities as a serious um, voice in humanity. And Dr. The late Dr. Cone did the same, and they had to wrestle with their own demons or um, stuff inside, to come there to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we've been discussing, it's pretty big changes that, we're wanting other people to make. Also, um, what impact is your work having on disabled individuals who are involved in Black liberation theology? Are you finding that there's a growing number of Black voices that are also speaking up and out about this?
Yes, yeah, that's a good question. I know I love to create space that people can, really talk or just to be in, with each other. Especially people living with disabilities, and we want a community, and we want leadership looks like us. So there's a lot of people living with disabilities, and leadership positions now. And that's cool. You know, so we're getting our voice heard because we in the room. Sometimes you have to force a way in the room, but as long as you in that room, you can get your voice heard. Sometimes easier than other times.
So this is January, and Dr. King's birthday is going to be being celebrated now. And I'm wondering, how was he the man and his teachings? How did that impact you?
Um, well, I look at his education, the schools he went to, and all the things that he was involved with. But as a Black PK, I see that in him. You know, he was from the Black community and the Black church, and I think that grounding was very, very important for him to do his work.
As we celebrate his birthday and his work, uh, are there any messages that you want to be giving to our listeners, especially relating to the work that you're doing with Black liberation theology?
Yes, I especially today, these these times, we need to really, really, be critical. We gotta love each other. Sometimes, it's hard because we isolated, but really, really be critical and love and just do your best. Um, and trying to, let people in, especially, people they feel like they don't have a community. You know, let reach out. you know, and he was doing that all the time, you know, reaching out, because I really believe, you know, God's, he's got, well, I think God's word is love, and that can come across different ways. Because when I tell my truth, I'm loving myself and others. But sometimes telling your truth, it angers people. But you got to tell your truth.
And I think, what I hear from you is your truth on insisting that disabled people be a part of the work that's going on within the Black Liberation Theology movement.
Yes. Yeah, because Black Liberation Theology of Disabilities is really seeing the world through your lens. I'm living with a disability, so I see the world through my lens, nobody else's, and so that's very important for me.
And I think we all have our stories.
Yeah.
And one of the values that I believe from you, and much more than we've been able to discuss in this time, is your story and your evolution and peer support work that I know you've done in the past, and being an example for other people to really believe in themselves.
Yes, because, like I talked about my mom, in the Black church, the mothers of the church, they never gave up on me. That kind of love, I'm like, whoa, so I have to give that back.
Mhm.
I have to give that back.
So what would you say your parting words are? Because one of the important parts of you is the authenticity of the Black Liberation Theology, which really is going to speak to the real lives of people, from the perspective of Black disabled individuals. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I really, I know this is my calling, and it's a practical, theology. So people on the ground, they can really take it and use it. It's not a theology of theory. It's not up in the universities. We need theology that people can use daily to live by. So that's my theology, and I have friends who doing this work too, and I want more people to contact me, and we can do work together.
So I want to thank you for being with us, and very happy that we've met and will continue to talk and work together. And I hope you will all tune in for our next Heumann Perspective, and we will be sharing information about the work that Kendrick has been doing. So thank you all very much for spending time with us today. And thank you, Kendrick, so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
That history won't forget us or try to minimize our pain, and so I wait